Lately, I've been asked a number of times, how does the unfaithful deal with the betrayed spouse, being so angry and wanting to ask questions and talk about it, and why do they always want to talk about what's happened? Like, why don't they just put it away in a box, and why do we keep having to talk about it? And I've had a pretty good amount of betrayed spouse message in and say, look, my unfaithful spouse won't talk about it, refuses to talk about it, just wants to say, no, let's get over it, move on, let's stop talking about it. And today I want to offer some help to you, the unfaithful spouse, who struggles with conflict and struggles with your betrayed spouse constantly wanting to talk about details or information or this or that. Because I think there's some things that I can offer that may, at the very least, help you a little bit. You see, as an unfaithful spouse, when conflict happens, we have the unique gift, more like a curse, to make everything about us. So when you, the betrayed, are flooding or having some issues or struggling or wanting to talk or engaging or asking questions, we have this unique, uncanny ability to make it all about us because we made it all about us in the original context because we had the affair. So life has become about us. What we think, what we feel, what we need, what we want. And so when you are struggling or having a difficult moment or want to talk, innately, we kind of make everything about us. Of course it's wrong, of course it's dysfunctional, of course it's stupid, but it's kind of where we're at. And so if you're an unfaithful spouse, you have to begin to understand that the betrayed spouse needs to talk about it because if they don't talk about it, they can't heal. And you kind of go, why do we keep having to talk about it? Well, it's actually kind of a good thing that they want to talk about it because if they don't want to talk about it, they're only reinforcing the trauma. They're only kind of letting the wound fester and go deeper and go deeper. And I promise you, it's going to come out sometime soon. And when it comes out, it's going to be far worse than it would have been if they talked about it almost every day. So at some level, adjust your understanding because the fact that they do want to talk about it means that they're actually trying to connect with you. What I fear is when people go, I don't want to talk about it and I don't want to talk to you, I'm done and it's over. And many times I have to help the unfaithful understand that if your spouse was maybe truly done with you, they would stop talking to you, they wouldn't flood at you or flood with you at all, they wouldn't even fight with you, they would just cut the cord, file for divorce, and disappear. And that does happen quite often. But the fact that the betrayed spouse does want to engage, does want to talk, even though it's fighting, is actually a good sign because you don't typically fight with someone you don't care about. So it gets real muddy. And as an unfaithful, we just don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about it because we're talking about our biggest failure, or we're talking about how we wounded our spouse and completely crapped all over our life. We're talking about how we humiliated ourselves. We're talking about doing something that society, even kind of in our jacked up society, looks upon as what a failure. So we are embarrassed and we are ashamed of what we've done, so we don't want to talk about it because it cultivates more and more shame and embarrassment internally, and so we make it about us again. We should be making it about you, the betrayed, and your emotions, your feelings, and your pain, but no, what we do is what Rick calls the lesser shame. We make it about us and our shame. We don't really focus on you, the betrayed, who we should be focusing on in the first place. What I mean is, one of the best things that you can do as an unfaithful is make it about their pain and their healing. What does that mean? That means when they want to talk about it, and you as an unfaithful are like, oh, and you have that internal feeling like, here we go again, and oh, I hate, oh, and all these conflicting, self-loathing, self-hating emotions, we have to be mature enough. We have to be adult enough. We have to be present and aware enough to be able to say, yes, I will answer any questions that you'd like to answer. And yeah, let's talk about it. And be able to have a conversation that is about them, not you. You just have to do it. Is it perfectly fair? No. But is infidelity fair? No. It's about being able to take your hurt, your pain, your confusion, your struggle, which I want to validate and say is very real. But it's about taking that you as an unfaithful are feeling and putting it on the shelf in this moment. And you may need to remind yourself, okay, when they want to talk, you may need to visually go, you know what, I'm going to take mine and put it on the shelf, and I'm going to be about their pain. And I'm not going to get defensive, and I'm not going to, fly off the handle. I'm not going to let my shame muddy the waters. I'm going to be present in their pain and say, yeah, let's talk. When you do that, you create safety for your spouse. You create maturity. You create bravery. You model owning your behavior, and you display a willingness to help your victim, your spouse, heal. Now, yes, you have issues, pain, anger, betrayal of maybe your own, feeling like your needs were unmet, and feeling all these different things. Yeah, but you got to shelf them. Because right now, one of the best things that you can do is make it about the victim and helping them heal, because there will come a time, as I've said before, that you can talk about these things. But right now, be safe for your spouse's anger. Be safe for your spouse's tears. Be safe for the emotion that you're going to see in your spouse. One of the worst things that you can do, and James Dobson said this just this morning, one of the worst things that you can do is put a cage around your mate. Refuse to let them emote or feel or talk or experience. You know what? You are not able to control them. You're going to have to allow them to emote. And as you are safe for them, as you process their pain with them, you are gaining ground. Even though it feels like all they're doing is stabbing you and creating division, the fact that you are present with them and their pain is winning their hearts slowly but surely. Now, before you run too far down the road, there's boundaries. Some boundaries that I will give you, because I know, I understand, I hear it all the time. She yells, he screams, they verbally abuse me. I get it. That's why you have to have some boundaries. I typically suggest that people set a boundary of about a 30-minute conversation. After 30 minutes, man, we're kind of hammering away. We are no longer processing new information. We're belaboring the point. It just doesn't work. Another thing is, I suggest, like Rick suggests, a heart rate monitor. Because if you get over 100 beats per minute, you are now in fight or flight. You are not hearing what your spouse is saying. You are not hearing what your spouse is saying. I mean, you are at a level of RPMs that you are no longer being productive. You are now running the risk of damaging each other even further. You may even set a boundary of having low expectations, of being able to say, look, let's not maybe try and commit to resolving everything, but let's get an expectation of just understanding where each other is at and validating it. And again, understanding that the biggest validating process is helping the betrayed feel validated in their pain. Another boundary is abusive behavior. Whether that's domestic violence, throwing things of that nature, it just doesn't work. If you are going to torture your unfaithful spouse, it just doesn't work. I get it, I understand it, but you have to understand that's not going to help. It's not going to really bring you two together. It's going to be outside the boundaries of what recovery needs to look like. You just can't live there, and I'm sorry, but you can't even really visit there very often. If that's the case, then you have to resort to other boundaries, and that may look like, I don't know, separation, only doing it with a third party, things of that nature. One of the things that I tell unfaithful spouses, and I'll end with this, is adjust the when. There's times where I went into conversations with Samantha, and I wish I would have adjusted the when, because we think that the when is, I've got to get my point across and be validated. Or the when is, well, we need to make it about both of us. Your issues, yeah, but what about my issues? What about my unmet needs? No. Adjusting the when looks like this. Maybe as an unfaithful, adjusting the when means you go into a conversation with your spouse and they're flooding and they're having a difficult time, and the when is just not making it about you. Maybe that's adjusting the when, making it about them. Another significant adjustment in adjusting the when is maybe the when is that you talk with them, your betrayed spouse, and you're processing, and you just don't retreat in shame. Maybe you stay present, and internally you're fighting a war, but you decide, you know what? No, I'm not going to make it about me. I'm just going to make it about them, and I'm not going to retreat in shame and go hide. Maybe it's that adjusting the win is just that you don't get defensive and you own it, even though maybe only 70% of what they're saying is accurate, but there's like this 30% quotient that you're like, but what about, boom, boom, boom. And you decide, you know what? Forget about the 30%. I'm just going to own it all because I'm not living for just today. I'm living for 1, 2, 3, 20 years down the road. So if I got to own all of this right now, I'm going to own it because I know that I'm committed to the process, and the process means that eventually we'll be able to talk about that 30%. But right now I need to own 70%. In fact, I need to own all of this because I'm living for another day, not just this fight. So it's a little game changer. Adjust the win. Don't make the win that you have to have this perfect conversation and everything goes great and you feel validated as an unfaithful, and then you throw out a little bit of validation to your betrayed spouse. Adjust the win. Maybe it's that you just listen and process and don't be a jerk. Maybe you don't get into a huge fight. Maybe you just adjust the win by, after they have this moment, you as an unfaithful says, well, is there anything else you'd like to ask me? Or is there anything else that you want to talk about? Because I really want to do this right. All I know is you're probably going to have to adjust the win during different seasons of recovery.